Hey, let's
Thanks,
bring
Mike.
let's bring in Kellyanne Conway, Fox News contributor, former counselor to President Trump. So, Kellyanne, it turns out OPEC doesn't do anything we want. Have they gotten television since the 1970s? They pretty much have always done what they wanted to do. Why all of a sudden does the rubber hit the road with Democrats now?
Because Biden very blatantly and brazenly made a request, and they wanted to brush him back. I think it's incredibly embarrassing, if not a danger to our national security, Brian, to have OPEC and the Saudis turn around and say to Biden, we're not helping you crawl out of this midterm hole for your party by acceding to your wishes. And it's quite embarrassing. And look, Joe Biden keeps talking about tapping into this strategic petroleum reserve. Folks, that is there for special circumstances, after the Libyan war, after Hurricane Katrina, during the Persian Gulf War, not because a political person, the President of the United States, has done everything he can to gut American energy. Well, yeah, of course, stop drilling, canceling those U.S. pipelines on day one and all the jobs that went with it. Look, you can't run the world's greatest democracy, our country, on spite. And I can't help but feel that this president, his governing philosophy is spite. Trump did it, I'll undo it. The Republicans want it, I don't want it. And then he just lied. He lied to Jake Tapper. To say that you didn't go to the Saudis for oil is just a lie. Yep. His own administration admitted that he did. We know he did. And they just keep lying. They lie about the whipping of the migrants. They lie that we're not in a recession by his own economist definition, 2 consecutive quarters of no growth. We're in a recession. He lies about not begging them for oil. Last point, 2021. June of 2021, Biden meets with Putin. And what does he give him? He gives him custom-made aviators. And, of course, the mainstream media says, oh, wow, he gave him custom-made. What has Putin done since then? He gives him Ray-Bans. Right. He gives the Saudis a fist bump. And we get to pay the price at the gas pump. Yeah. That's why Joe Biden and his party have no credibility when it comes to the top issues governing this election: inflation, rising costs, rising crime, and education.
And Kellyanne, doesn't it show he doesn't even care about the American people when he says, if you're gonna cut production, just wait a month after the midterms?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's so embarrassing to have a U.S. president be politician-in-chief that way and ask a foreign entity to cut production. By the way, it's not even clear, Ainsley, that would have affected what we pay at the pump. Right. So not only do they lie and do they beg, but they also are just inaccurate. And I think that the lack of accuracy, accountability, and apology from this White House, everything from issues like this with oil to the migrant situation, which really should make everybody very upset, whipping the migrants, which of course was a lie and they knew it. There's no apology, no accountability, no accuracy.
Kellyanne, speaking of the migrants, there were a couple of top Democrats yesterday who essentially called out the president and said, hey, Joe Biden, stop pretending the migrant situation on our southern border is not a problem. We had the governor of New York say that this is owned by the Biden administration, the problem. And Nancy Pelosi at a senior center here in New York City said, quote, we all know that we must secure our border. That's our responsibility as a country. We also must respect those seeking asylum for appropriate reasons. But we all must understand the impact on communities. It's a new phenomenon. The answer to almost every problem is to have comprehensive immigration reform. We can't get that under the present set of circumstances. Short of that, though, we'll have to address the issue. As they clearly address the issue means give them more money to handle what Joe Biden is flooding the country with, and that is migrants who we've never seen in these numbers before.
That's right. Hey, Steve, the Democratic philosophy right now is don't believe what you see, believe what I say. Right. And Americans are, by and large, rejecting that. They're rejecting that with rising costs, rising crime, and they're certainly rejecting it when it comes to border security. And let me just say, border security and immigration are very different in our polling. Immigration does animate many voters, but border security gets even more voters. A lot of suburban women, more independents, some young people. That's different to them. Immigration, they think, is about people. Border security is about fentanyl. It's about the fact that millions of people have just walked into the country, even though they lie about that. Now, this country is very upset. They know that fentanyl is the #1 killer of 18 to 44-year-olds. In the White House where I worked, the president and the first lady, Donald and Melania Trump, they worked on the drug issue together, and we had broken the back of the overdose crisis. We got it to like 65, 70,000. It was 107,000 last year, friends. You can fill up Yankee Stadium and Met Stadium, Citi Field, and still be looking for seats. 107,000 people lost. And Nancy Pelosi's answer to that is comprehensive immigration reform. Joe Biden has not been to the border. Kamala Harris did a drive-by. Mayorkas is asleep at the job, lies about. They've spent more time talking about whipping migrants, which was a lie, than they have about babies drowning in the Rio Grande River, and they have about rainbow fentanyl. 2,200 pounds of fentanyl was seized in August alone at the border. That's enough to kill 500 million people. That's 500.
Wow.
It's 500 million
Right.
lethal doses. Now, rainbow fentanyl is 50 times more potent, more lethal than heroin. I just want to put this in perspective for folks. And this administration's done absolutely nothing. That's why security is the big issue going forward, whether it's safety, crime, drugs, border security, national security, economic security, housing security, affordability, fairness, education. Those are the big issues heading into this election.
Kellyanne, you wrote an op-ed on FoxNews.com talking about the problem with the polls and conservative voters. You say if history is any guide, conservative and centrist votes are being undercounted by many public polls. Give us some examples, because you listed some, but tell the folks at home who haven't read it some examples.
Sure. Well, thank you, Ainsley. This has been going on for quite a while, and I think part of it is that people are undersampling independents and Republicans in their overall sample. Now, independents have been lining with Republicans for a while. Joe Biden lost them early, never got them back. They're angry about a lot of his policies and his inaction. So when it comes to counting centrist and conservative voters, the history of these mainstream media polls and academic polls is to underappreciate, undervalue, and then undercount them. Why? Because they dismiss them in their polls because they dismiss them in life. Remember, we never deeply examine that which we deeply disdain. So here are the examples from 2020. You saw the presidential examples. Joe Biden, on average, was winning Wisconsin by 7 points. No, he didn't. Trump and Joe Biden were tied in Florida. No, they weren't. Trump was up by 1 point in Iowa and Ohio. He won both points by 8%. But let me run through the Senate races very quickly. Tom Tillis in North Carolina won by 2 points. Joni earned 6.6 points. Steve Daines in Montana won. Susan Collins won Maine by 8.6%, and Lindsey Graham of South Carolina won by 10%. What do they all have in common? Number one, they're all Republican United States senators right now. Number two, they were all outside the margin of error in the publicly released polls. Right. There was not a single poll that showed Susan Collins winning her race. She won by 8.6%. That's not a squeaker. Right. That's not a close race. And what happens is afterwards, the pollsters say, oopsie, we'll do better next time, and they don't. So it's one thing for the art in polls to be good, but the science is what's really important, and there's no accountability in this highly unregulated industry.
Indeed. But also something we've seen over the last couple of years is the phenomenon of the shy voter who is reluctant to actually either speak to a pollster or tell the pollster the truth. They might say, I'm going to vote this way, and then vote that way.
Well, yes, and I mean, have you ever been on Twitter lately? It's a left-wing cesspool. So those people are out and about, really excited to tell you exactly what they think about everything moment by moment. They're the same people screaming in polls. It is correct. I think it's a little overblown, frankly. I think some people are playing cover CYA on it, but it is correct that some people don't want to participate in polls because they feel they can be investigated, indicted, subpoenaed. They can have their private home ransacked by the authorities. But look, I think it's more fundamentally, Steve, an issue of what I said in 2016, which is the undercover hidden Trump-Pence voter.
I remember.
They were. It's not that they're embarrassed to say that. It's that they don't want every night to feel like Thanksgiving with the in-laws, and they don't. Their vote is private, and they don't want to hear. But you're female, but you're Hispanic, but you're an immigrant, but you're young, but you're a union household. You're just supposed to vote for the Democrat. You're not supposed to vote for Trump and the Republicans. And they say, you know what? My vote is my choice and my voice, and I'm going to do what I want. I think they're back in full force in 2022 and likely 2024. Many people that the pollsters are missing in their polls are going to come out and vote this time, and they're going to vote for Republicans who actually have an affirmative vision.
Right.
I say in 2020, there really wasn't a hidden Trump voter. They were doing boat parades and wearing their red MAGA hats out at rallies in the snow, but they were hidden in 2016. I think they're hidden again in 2022.
And a lot of things, how do you get a hold of them? Is it email? Is it cell phone? Is it landline? Cell phone, wrong area code, you moved, you no longer in California. So it's a challenge, but you do this for a living. So Kellyanne, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kellyanne.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.